So, Caley, you were born into a hockey family, growing up with the influence of your dad, Chris, and now you get to work with him. What has the preparation process been like?
It's fun. Obviously, getting to work with my dad has been extremely helpful for my career personally. Having him around my family all the time and getting to watch hockey and talk about it together now at the professional level for me is exciting. We grew up, obviously, a hockey family, like you said. So I played, my sister played, my brothers played, all of us. My brothers played at the collegiate and professional level. So I watched all of their games growing up in AAA hockey and played myself and learned everything I know from my dad and his teammates. And I just wanted to stay in the sport. So it's been a lot of fun now getting to come back full circle in Chicago and go back to the United Center and see people that I saw when I was probably like 3 or 4 years old. And now I'm much older and have kids of my own and hope to bring them in the booth one day, the same way my dad's kind of popped in there when John Weidman and I and Joe had been on the call before.
And I've heard that when you're preparing for some of these Blackhawks games that you and your dad actually watch film together. What is that like?
It's fun. I mean, we're both pretty blunt people. Sometimes he calls me out if I, say the wrong thing or I totally messed up on something, but that's where I learn everything. So it's fun. I mean, we'll watch NHL Network when he comes over to watch the kids the next day, and we'll rewatch highlights, plays, and it's fun because he's still into it. But obviously, for him doing ESPN, he has to do a lot more homework. Just jumping back into watching games consistently. Whereas, I covered the Lightning for 6 years, and I watched every single game, pretty much worked every single game during that time. So he had to jump back into the swing of it. And it's fun. We break down plays. We pick each other's brains a little bit. I obviously get a great perspective from him with the experience he has as a former player and Hall of Famer. And then he kind of gets my perspective as, somebody a little bit younger and been around different coaches and younger players and kind of hears things too that's just different culturally around the league now that maybe wasn't the same when he was playing.
And talking about that experience with the Tampa Bay Lightning, you were there for 2 of those back-to-back Stanley Cups. How much did you enjoy being in Tampa, and what was that like?
I loved it. I never expected to be in Tampa Bay. I was trying to get jobs all over the place, like from Champaign, Illinois, just middle of nowhere in the beginning when I graduated school, and timing and everything worked out. I made a phone call to the director of broadcast, and their reporter happened to quit like 2 weeks after I made that phone call in Tampa Bay, and they called me in, interviewed me, and obviously I knew Steve Yzerman was the general manager then, and I, spoke to him, and from then on, I interviewed, I got the job, and quickly drove all the way to Florida and made a home of it for 5 years. So I can't say enough great things about my Tampa Bay family there. My colleagues who I worked with were unbelievable, so respectful, and just made working for that organization so much fun. I mean, they're obviously one of the best. They won back-to-back cups. When I first got there, they were ESPN's top ranked, I think franchise. So there were high expectations when I came, and it certainly fulfilled them when I worked there for as long as I did and got to cover such a talented team.
Let's talk about the Blackhawks and what you're doing now with them. We're getting into the second half of the season. What do you think the Blackhawks need to focus on right now?
I think it's been an up and down year for the Hawks. They obviously got off to a very tough start, coaching change, and when players like Marc-Andre Fleury and Jake McCabe and Seth Jones were signed, I think it sort of put a lot of pressure on this team to be a team that was going to make the playoffs. And so now they're at this stretch in the season, like you said, they're at the halfway point, and this next 7 games that they were about to embark on was going to be telling of whether or not they were going to be able to be in playoff contention, more likely than not. And so I think we've seen a big improvement. I think Derek King's ability to bring that calmness and take the pressure off those top veteran players that were signed, and players like Patrick Kane, Jonathan Toews. I mean, there's no question that him coming in here has had a really positive impact on this group of players. So I think moving forward, their goal is to make the playoffs. They can't do that playing run and gun hockey. They can't score their way out of problems. like they had in the past. Last year, they were a team that tried to. They scored a lot more goals. They had the secondary scoring, but they let in a lot of goals and they lost a lot of games. So I think since Derek King took over, they've become, a team that's built to win the 1-goal game. They've been patient. They have to defend, and that will lead to offense. And we've seen that when they're able to win games. They're going to run into opponents like Colorado the other night where they play a really good game. They probably deserve to have the lead coming out of the first period, but they're playing a good team, and it's not going to be able to be Marc-Andre Fleury every night that wins a game for you, even though most games he has been their backbone and done just that.
Thank you so much for joining me today, Caley.
Of course, Alexis, anytime.